We're back. We just decided that Carrie is a insomniac in denial. I want to introduce our expert, Dr. Jerald Simmons. He's a specialist in sleep disorders. What is insomnia? I mean, she doesn't think she is, but from what she's talking about, it sounds like it to me.
Questions backstage saying, I'm going to ask you questions. Are you a snorer?
Well, Suzanne, insomnia actually is a complaint of, that someone may have. It actually refers to a problem with sleeping. There's actually, to break insomnia down to two types. There's the type of insomnia where a person has difficulty falling off to sleep at the beginning of the night. Or
that's Susan.
That, exactly. That would be an example, would be Susan. There's another type of insomnia where once someone falls off to sleep, they actually have difficulty staying asleep, and they wake up repeatedly during the night. And that's, we call that a sleep maintenance insomnia.
Is that Steve?
Well,
your husband?
no,
Okay.
but there are a number of different causes for that.
How do you get it?
Well, how do you get insomnia? It depends on, no, it's not a virus. It depends on, again, it's a symptom. It's something, it's a complaint that someone has. You said, how do you get it? It depends on what kind of insomnia we're talking about. But before we really think about insomnia, what's really important to understand is that there's two processes always going on in all of us. There's a process which is keeping us awake, and there's a process that's trying to get us to go to sleep. And they're changing throughout the day. All right? So you have a process that's keeping you awake, and then all of a sudden, let's say there's something stressful that's happening. An earthquake is an example. Your internal drive to stay awake is now increased. Okay? And this is, so you're born with a certain level of drive to stay awake, and then other factors are going to influence that during the day. Now there's another process going on which is called your sleep drive. And your sleep drive actually modulates throughout the day. Now, your sleep drive when you wake up is very low, but as the day goes on and you're awake for more hours, your sleep drive builds up. And finally, after a certain point, your sleep drive is strong enough that it overtakes your awake drive and you fall off to sleep. As you're asleep, the longer you're asleep, your sleep drive goes down and lower and lower and lower until finally your wake drive is stronger than your sleep drive and you wake back up.
So what's wrong with Susan?
Okay, well,
sorry, in terms of sleeping, I mean.
After the earthquake, I really had a couple of hours sleep when the earthquake hit, because of course I hadn't gone to bed till 2 or 3. And then I went to sleep for a little while, and then I wanted to go out and help, and then they said they only wanted professionals, and I realized I just wanted to eat donuts and meet firemen. But I couldn't sleep for a long time after the quake and the aftershocks and the whole thing.
Is that pretty typical?
Well, yes, it's a stressful event, and then it's going to stimulate people to stay awake. And it's all going to overcome their sleep drive. Even though they may have a stronger sleep drive than normal, their awake drive is that much stronger so they don't fall asleep.
Back to Susan.
Sure.
Back to Susan. I want her to get through the night. I want them to be in the same bed at the same time. See, that's my goal today.
Well, the thing to understand is that each individual is different, and we're born with different sleep drives. Some people have a stronger sleep drive than others. Now, if you have an individual whose sleep drive is very weak, meaning their ability to fall asleep is weak to start with, and then you give that person some extra stress, then they're going to have a harder time falling up to sleep. Other people are born with a much stronger sleep drive, and they have no problems falling off to sleep.
So are you saying that she doesn't need as much sleep as other people?
No. There is something referred to as a physiological short sleeper, but that individual won't have complaints during the day based on their small amount of sleep. But if a person...
a PSS. You're glad. Good thing you're not a PSS.
Wasn't Einstein didn't sleep and...
No, but that's good, because they don't need it.
They didn't need it, but then his hair stuck out real funny, so...
I could use some of that.
Can you, because you're a specialist in this, can you tell by looking at people if they're insomniacs?
I'm not that good yet.
Nah,
just by looking
But he can hug you and tell you how much you
at least
weigh.
get a history from a patient. I have to talk to them, find out.
Let me ask you something. You know, some little boys grow up and want to be firemen, and other one. I've just never heard one say, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor that specializes in sleep disorders. How did you get into this?
Well, okay, interesting question. Well, I'm a neurologist, actually.
I see, I got it.
And as a neurologist, there are several areas of neurology that I practice, epilepsy and electrophysiology of the brain, and sleep is sort of the final frontier, or the new frontier. So much of our medical field is focusing on daytime activity, but the sleep is such an active, dynamic process, and there's so much that's going on during sleep.
That's when your little neurons knit back together, you know?
Do you, you know, sometimes if I'm working on a script, I'll read it right before I go to bed, thinking that the information's in my head and I'll have a better handle on it in the morning. Am I just being dumb, or...?
Well, like anything else, the more you rehearse something, then the more likely you are to remember it the next day. The fact that you're doing it right before you go to sleep, there are some studies that show that sort of the last thoughts you have before you go to bed may actually be content that shows up in your dreams. There are some reports that refer to that activity, but I wouldn't say that that's good for everyone to read their scripts, because that may actually cause too much stress and then actually may prevent someone from falling off to sleep.
But you know, I do that sometimes, because what happens is, I mean, of course I'm doing it that time anyway, but what happens is I will dream in character. And I think that's always good. It always makes me feel like I don't have to worry about that anymore. I've got it.
How lucky.
You know?
What
Don't
character? No,
It doesn't matter.
if I dreamt I was Chrissy, I'd just be in big trouble.
Yeah, I thought you were Chrissy before I knew you.
Yeah, right.
I was so surprised that you're so smart. No, but you will dream a little bit. Like you say, if you're thinking about something right before you go to sleep, you'll have dreams connected to your work.
Yeah. So I grew up dreaming about snakes every single night.
I think that is a little kind of a phallic kind of a dream. I think that that's a pee-pee kind of a thing.
I did. I know, I don't think it's pee-pee. I thought that was, and I was afraid to mention it to people, but someone told me, you could correct me if I'm wrong, that dreaming about snakes, and a lot of children dream about snakes, that it's about unpredictability. And I'm a child of an alcoholic, and when you live with an alcoholic, it's a very unpredictable environment. You never know when they're going to strike, and that is probably why I dreamed about snakes. Is that correct?
That kind of association may be true, and I really don't spend too much time on dream interpretation.
I see. That's another specialty. Yes, I see.
I focus more on the physiology of sleep, and when certain types of functioning, such as breathing, doesn't work correctly, or if the brain has certain activity that's not processing normally during sleep, then it may wake up somebody.
Yeah.
But so dream interpretation.
We're dreaming on our own time.
Well,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot to dream content and how it relates to an individual's life. I don't want to...
Aren't you not supposed to watch the news right before you go to bed? I read a book about that.
Or exercise.
It depends on the individual. Well, you see, you're bringing several points up. Well, let me first go back to something we were talking about a few moments ago, and that's about the sleep drive and how it fluctuates throughout the day. The thing is, there's such a spectrum of people with different sleep drives and how strong they are. Now, if you're a person that has a very weak sleep drive system, you're very vulnerable to disruption of your daily cycle, and that may cause you then to have insomnia. Whereas if you have a strong sleep drive, then you're less prone to insomnia. So there's a concept called sleep hygiene.
Hygiene.
Yeah.
So if you're clean when you go to bed, you mean?
Yeah, take that bath. One last question. Do you sleep better if you're in pajamas or in the nude?
I think that depends on the individual.
Okay. Stick around. We'll give you some tips on getting a good night's sleep tonight. Thanks, Glenn. We're talking about insomnia with Susan Blakely, comedian Carrie Snow, and Dr. Jerald Simmons. Now, we're going to ask, if you want a tip on how to sleep, right? Yeah. And what you want to stand up, you have a little story to ask, first to tell Dr. Simmons and then ask a tip on how to sleep.
What I was wondering if, about 3 years ago I lost my mother, and I hadn't been able to sleep since then, off and on, through the evenings and things.
So you want a tip on what you could do to get to sleep, because she's... to have a heartache, right?
Right.
Yes, I understand. And
Well,
do you have a tip?
Well, obviously, loss of your mother is a stressful event in your life, and dealing with that stress is going to be a real important issue. And it really may help in looking at your overall sleep habits, your sleep hygiene, and how you carry out your whole day to really know whether there are things that maybe you can improve, such as not taking naps during the day to try to save up your sleepiness so that you can just consolidate it at night. That would be important to deal with.
Do you take naps during the day?
No.
No.
No, I don't. I don't go to bed till about 3 or 4 in the morning. And since then, about a month ago, I lost my nephew. So now I'm really not sleeping anymore.
Yeah. What about medication? Is that something that you would prescribe in this case?
Yeah, well, medication, again, may be useful, and I think it's important to maybe see a physician that can deal with just the stress that you're going through. And by dealing with that specific, you have a very specific stressful phenomena going on in your life, so that that should be focused in on, and you've demonstrated a relationship between that stress and your insomnia. So you really need to deal with that stressful phenomena first.
So I hope that helps you. How about counting sheep or warm milk?
Well, if you find that it actually helps for you, then you should do it.
Who's next? You had a question?
Hi, Suzanne.
Hi. What's your name first?
Evangeline.
Evangeline.
My husband and I have been married 11 years, and at first we didn't have a problem, but then all of a sudden he started snoring, and it sounds like a freight train coming through the house. I mean, the walls literally shake. And it's gotten so bad that we now have separate bedrooms. We start off in one bed, and then later on, as the evening goes on, I go upstairs to my room. And I've always been a light sleeper. And
so this is hard.
So I have trouble getting to sleep, and then I also wake up during the night. And now that we're on vacation down here in LA, the doctor prescribed sleeping pills because we have to share a room.
Yeah.
And I spent the night in the bathtub in the hotel last night.
In the bathtub. What can you do for her?
Well,
we got to get her out of the bathtub.
right. No, we wouldn't want you to drown. Actually, the problem that you described with your husband with the snoring, that's very correctable. And there are a variety of options available to your husband regarding how to take care of his snoring, such as surgery that can be done, or even wearing a dental appliance that's very effective.
He has one of those.
It does. Doesn't need to work. Okay, well, it's not 100% effective, and there are different type of dental appliances, but then maybe surgery would be the other option. But something I'd be concerned about, though, is that maybe he also has something called obstructive sleep apnea, where he actually has pauses in his breathing during sleep. Have you noticed that?
He does.
Okay.
He stops breathing, and when we used to spend the night together in the same bed, I used to...
that's so sad.
or even if I was on the couch in the other room, I would stop hearing him breathing, and I would run in there and I'd make sure he was still alive, because it really scared me.
So that, for one, is an extra stress factor for you, keeping you awake, but it's something that is probably disturbing his daytime function as well, because even though you think he's asleep, he's having repeated disruptions of his sleep, and it's actually having a big impact on his life, and that's correctable.
But he goes to sleep, bam, he's
Right, because
gone.
he's very sleepy because he's not getting the kind of sleep that he needs at night.
See, you're the one with the problem. Thank you. There is surgery for that, I know. Yes, Carrie?
Does he have life insurance?
You have a question? For Susan.
I was curious if you like modeling or acting better.
I always preferred acting.
Acting.
Yeah.
Anybody
more of a
else?
challenge.
Yeah, you have a question?
I work all day and go to school at night, get home at about 9:30 at night, and can't fall asleep until about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, some people have suggested maybe exercising in the morning or afternoon somehow to relieve some tension.
What do you think, Doc? What about sex?
Yeah, well, actually, some people find that after having sexual activity, they feel more relaxed, but there are other individuals that are actually more awake afterwards. So that depends on the individual.
Does it count if other people aren't there?
If you can't sleep, stay with us, because Carrie Snow has brought along some of her favorite can't sleep gadgets to show us. Stay with us.